It's a beautiful morning. Sun just came up. Perfect time to head on over to the shop. See, down here in southern Utah, the week of April, first week in April, it's pleasant temperature-wise. No rain. Today is beautiful, no clouds, so we should be getting a nice solar production day today. Try to keep our bills low. We use a lot of electricity on my property for heat, water heat. The addition that was added to our home before we bought it they just ran electric. They didn't bring gas into the mechanical room. So with an electric water heater and an electric heat, we use a lot of the powers. All right, I'm bringing some supplies today to the video. I've got a bunch of diesel oil. That's what I'll be putting in the tractor and any old vehicle. So 3 tractors, my truck, and then my 4-wheeler, my 3-wheeler, and the motorcycle. They'll all get this old 1540. I have reasons, but the old oil pumps benefit from that. We got some filters for the hydraulic fluid. So I have 3 tractors, so I bought 3 of those. A fuel filter for the diesel, so the one we're working on. A chain hoist that might hopefully make things easier. Some straps that might make today a little bit easier. And then my manuals, the stuff that is going to answer some questions that I'm sure I have today. See, I've been thinking in an earlier video, I was positive that the reason that the brakes on the left side made that horrendous noise was because there was oil on the brakes. And it turns out on the right side, there was more oil on the brakes. And when I had pressed the right brake really hard, it just didn't slow down very efficiently. So I don't think that's the problem. So today we're going to pull off this cover that has the seat on it. We're going to get access into the tube, the torque tube inside. And even though I don't have all of the brake parts, I do have all of the seals and the things to close up these brake sides. So we're going to do that. I'm going to try to appropriately install the tube. I remembered the technical name, but I forgot it, on both sides. And then we're going to try to duplicate somehow the conditions that caused it to make horrible noise. But hopefully when we get access up here, that will, let us know what's going on. And then I have a picker, an engine picker that would be really good for this. And maybe I'll still use it. Maybe there's a way to do it. But I've also got this goofy thing I bolted and welded together a while back. Those really long 10-foot 2x4s, they have a carriage up there at top and some hooks and things. And those might be the easiest way to pick that off of there safely, because it's going to be heavy. We'll have to do some disconnecting back here. For example, I need to disconnect both of those. I'm going to have to disconnect some hydraulic lines right there. And we'll see what else as we are in the process of picking it apart. But let's make that our goal this morning or today, to get that picked off of there and get the brake, the seals and everything back in place. And then, I guess we're digging into this thing further to try to find out why the brakes caused such a disastrous sound. So yeah, it should be a fun video. Let's crack into it. can zoom in. Look at the wear that is in this pipe from the seat. I mean, that is deep into there. I'm not comfortable running this if we don't fix that. Even though I think this is the low pressure return, which is goofy because look where it's going. It looks like it's going into the back here, but it gets pumped from up here. So man, I'm back to being a little bit confused. Maybe there's a journal that goes all the way up to the front. I don't know. But okay, let me pause this and put up the picker. In place of a normal shop crane, what I have here is a homemade teepee of 2x4s that are 10 feet tall, maybe 12, I don't remember. And I've used it before to lift some things. Let me get you in a little bit closer to what it looks like up here. I welded a triangle together and then used various bracketry. There's your view there to connect it together. And then I'm in on that hook there. So, you know, not a traditional gantry shop train, not something that everyone else is using, but you know what? I'm not filthy rich. what we're looking at is this piece of metal bracket bends right here, and it has another bolt. And then on the other side of that, nope, it's steel pipe, and I broke it. I can see I broke it. Oh, dang it. Dang it, dang it, dang it. You see that right there? Or maybe it's rubber pipe and I broke it. Maybe that's plastic and we're gonna be all right. Okay, well, I just broke it. So whatever it was, it's now toast. Here's what I don't see. I don't see a whole bunch of broken gears. I don't see any missing teeth. I do see some hydraulic fluid continuing to leak from that entry there. Yeah, that sucks. Let's see if we can turn a tire. Okay, yeah, let's not do that until we've got all of our stuff back where it belongs. But that's our visual inspection. I don't really see anything scary. Nothing has me overly concerned about that. So that's good news. That means that, you know, whatever we ended up doing or whatever has been done in the past, it does not look like it's all broken. And that's what I was worried about. So let's see if we can figure out how to put these covers back on these brakes. All right, so I have, these are not gaskets at all. These are called shims. And so on this side of the tractor, there were two of them. They're really thin. They're like, I don't know, 5,000ths, I think, is what they're made out of. Just steel, spring steel shims. And they are obviously important because they're on here. But there's two of them on this side, and there's only one on the other. And I think we have to perform a shim test. We have to find out. It's called Lash. So let me go clean these off real good, scrape all the grease off of them so that they are actually thin like they're supposed to be. I have not yet put the seal on there. I don't have the O-ring on the outside. All I'm going to do is get everything nice and oily. I'm going to put that cover back on, and then we're going to try to test for Lash. That's why I took the top off. One, to look in there, but two, we've got to get the lash correct on these, and I think in order to do that, you have to have this taken apart. Might be able to just turn it once it's installed and see, but let's do it the right way. So I'm gonna go off camera and wash these because you guys have seen me wash things a billion times. I'll be right back. Okay, this is why we spent all that time. We want to see these gears. We want to see how they interact with each other, and we want to see how, when the brake parts are finally installed correctly, how are things happening in there. So I think we should get some extra light. So just 1 second. Okay, the reason for the extra light is so that we can really get a good view of what's going on down inside of there. Let's see. I see great big nut there that holds this in place. Okay, good. Great big nut that holds this in place. Looks good. That's the shaft that carries fluid, or sorry, that carries RPM back to the PTO. Okay. I don't see any damage, but I do see what looks like some metal down at the bottom, like a decent amount of metal. So what does that mean? Like, you can see that, right? So how many places can be affected by me pressing the brake? And in particular, and oh, that's something interesting. There's another set of gears inside here. There's a pinion. Also, I had expected that the shaft that comes out the other end would be at least moving. It's not even connected. So let me show you what I mean. When I pull on the brake on the other side, I expect this shaft to move. But look, I'm spinning it, I'm pulling on it and stuff like that. And it's not moving. So, you know, I don't know if that means anything. I just know that this thing is like in its place. It won't move. How about those gears there? Let's see if we can find any missing planetary gears. Nothing there. Down below? No, those all look good. Oh man, I did not sign up for this. That shaft should be mobile. Number one, we'll call it mobile. Number two, it should tie into this brake on that side. But it's just sitting there, seized. Boy, I made a mess of my flashlight. Sometimes I put that flashlight in my mouth. Okay, I can. This one goes over that, so whatever this is attached to, it is angry. It does have a center. I wonder if it's got threads. I wonder if we need to pull on it. I think this is the right path to be on. I think we are bumping up against the reason that this doesn't, in my opinion, work so well. Okay, I think we're on the right path. I really do. I think figuring out why that shaft doesn't really engage either side is part of the solution here. And then there's our pipe, flexible, and it does appear to go into this chamber here. So I think before we even attempt to put this back on, we are going to be opening that chamber, which is fine. Why not? You know, we may as well open the PTO cover too, right? So let's see. Let me see if it's going to be possible to remove these brake shafts without disassembling the entire thing. So give me a minute. Okay, here's the status so far. On both sides, I have reattached the carriers. So, and I didn't put any shims in at all. And the book says that I'm supposed to be checking for lash. And I need to look up what lash is. Sorry if that disappoints some of you. I don't know how to check it. And really, if it is anything more than just, does this thing move back at all, back and forth at all, before it moves inside here? If that's what lash is, then we have almost none. And maybe that's why they had the shims on it. But what I noticed while I was just kind of spinning these around trying to get something to move was that this shaft that runs down the center, it looks like it's not necessarily connected to this side. You see how it's turning? It's turning in time with this. And not this, because if this side, if I rotate, one forward and one goes backwards, the shaft isn't moving at all. And what I guess I don't understand is, what good is it if we're moving forward? Okay, so these are both headed forward. If we're moving forward and all of a sudden I try to stop this side from moving, that just sounds like everything's fine. But still, that's the most I've seen this guy move since I started taking this apart. So I just don't understand it. I have absolutely no idea why the left side locks up, and I haven't done anything, in my opinion, to remedy that. Like, I haven't changed anything that would have addressed that if it's a problem. So what do? Do I just reassemble it and try again? I'm willing to do that. Like, willing to do whatever it takes, but I don't understand why it's having that problem. I want to go and see if any of that stuff down there is just, if it's dirt or if it's sand from the casting. What's down there? Oh yeah, it's metal. So I guess the question is, for a vehicle of this age, and obviously wear, is that an acceptable amount of metal flakes? Let's see. I'm gonna guess the answer to that is yes. That's an acceptable amount of metal. It is a lot. It does seem like a lot, but I think we're gonna be okay. So the next question is the lash. How do I measure it? There is absolutely no forward and backward movement. And there is the most minute amount. And I don't think the lash right there between the drive and the brake is what they're talking about necessarily. Yeah, it all seems to be working, in my opinion. Well, okay, then let's take these off and put one shim on each side, and we'll compare. So, okay, give me a second. Okay, the shims are in, one shim on each side. That's actually fun to say. And there is a tiny bit of back and forth. I am legitimately surprised that on something so big like this, that a wafer thin piece of steel shim would cause so much back and forth, but there's a lot more back and forth. And I guess if I had to guess or say it, I would say that that system is a little bit more smooth. It felt a lot more tight before. So I need to do a little tiny bit of Googling, maybe some ChatGPTing, but I need to know, how do I measure lash? So after some internet searching, I have come to the conclusion that the method most likely used by most people is the field method. The field method is you assemble it like we have done, you make sure those bolts are nice and tight, which I can make them a little bit tighter, and you just feel for it. You just lean in and you say, that's too loose. Take out one of the shims. And I've also discovered that it doesn't matter what side you put the shims on. The shims are controlled, or sorry, once it's all really super tight, let me think about this for a second. It probably does matter what side you put the shims on, because we're changing this gear. And right now, there is a lot of movement back and forth between this gear and the gear down there. That's the one we're actually testing against, that worm down there. So you hear that? That's the lash. So I'll bet you if we were to take off this shim from this side, what that does is that brings the carrier in, and it actually pushes this whole system a little tiny bit further that direction. And I don't think we want that, because that actually, it seems to me like that's more than what is acceptable. It also says to lock that worm gear, and I don't know how well that'll lock it. Oh, pretty well. So let's take the shim off of this side, and then when we assemble it again, it'll push this direction by 1,000th, I think. And then we'll do this test again. Yeah, that's a decent amount of movement. So okay, let me do that, and then we'll go back into normal speed here. Let's see what, if anything, has changed about our lash now that we've removed one from that side. It sounds like it's the same, doesn't it? I don't know. Did this get tighter? That all feels really good. This is what we're trying to get the lash, and I mean, that's probably fine, right? This is just the brakes that we're talking about. No, it's not. This is how the transmission gives its energy to the back of the truck, the tractor. So we want that to be reasonable. Let's take the shim off of that side. Okay, not a single shim on the entire brake system. Never find that. Let's see. Unchanged. I hate to say it, but it seems like we're not doing anything useful here. It's the same. There it goes. Now it's breaking. Well, it also says that I'm supposed to test this with these properly torqued in place. So let's, I gotta think how I want to do this. If I put the brake cover on, that might be the fastest and easiest way to test these to the appropriate torque instead of trying to put together a whole bunch of washers. So let's do that. I'm not going to install the brakes. I still have to take those off and replace the seal inside of them on both sides because they're leaking. I was trying to test this part first, but let me go ahead, install the brake covers on both sides, torque them to the specification, and then we'll test this lash one more time. And since I didn't see a difference between shimmed and not shimmed, I'm going to go on the side of one shim per side. I think what I've read so far says if there's any doubt, shim. So we'll do that. We'll put one shim on each side. Okay, so both sides brake carriers are now on. If you didn't hear any clicks in that sped up video, it's because 80 to 90 pounds just felt scary tight for those bolts. So I tightened them until I was scared, just put it that way. But they have been tightened, and let's see what our lash is. It's exactly the same. I don't think anything we've been doing is changing that. So I think what I'm going to go on is how does the whole system feel at this amount of shim, which is one shim on each side. There's a little bit of lash on this. There's an equal little bit of lash on that. And there's lash on that. So, and it seems like it's an equal amount all the way around. So, what I know now, I wish I hadn't taken this part off because now I have to deal with a broken return tube. And that's something kind of interesting on that component. You know what, if I'm going to say something is interesting, I may as well take you over and show you. So this valve right here, this valve has a feed and a return. One of them is a return, one of them is a feed. This is what goes back to the hydraulic pump, okay? So your hydraulic pump's coming in and out of these two. When it decides it wants to lift, it sends hydraulic fluid through this pipe here. And then what happens is down here, this entire thing is a gigantic cylinder. And I mean big. It's a big cylinder, and it's got a short, stubby little rod in there, and it pushes against the guy that's right here, comes down from above, and as that rod pushes out, these lift up, okay? What's missing from this picture is that when it decides to lower this, it just lets the fluid out of the piston here, and it drains into this pan. This is basically a pan. And that tube there, under just gravity pressure, feeds the hydraulic fluid back to the hydraulic tank, which is not what I thought. It's not the tube. Because I found, let's see, where is it? It's on the other side. Hold on. I found the fill lid for it. Where is it? It's right there. And it's like, holy cow. Let me zoom some more. How are we going to feed? There it is. How are we going to feed hydraulic fluid all the way back there? They must count on this system not leaking a lot, because that's going to be a pain to fill. But anyway, that's where it is. So what we've learned by taking the top off was we broke a component. That's what we learned. And I think we also learned that we don't need 2 shims on this side, but I'm gonna go ahead and put 1 shim on each side, 2 shims total, right in the center, and that amount of lash is acceptable to me. So the work changes now a little bit. Now I need to replace the seals, put an O-ring on, and install the carriers on both sides. I also noticed while I was installing this side in particular, as I was tightening, it sounded like I was tightening against grit. So I'm gonna have to brake clean everything before I try to install it to get all the grit off of it. But I think our saga with the brakes is coming to a close pretty quick here. And then I will work on the other cylinder and the other seals that we got and all the other stuff. So stay with me, we'll get it done. Yeah, doesn't that look nice and shiny? Just kind of gets rid of all of the, I don't know if there's glaze on there. I don't think these brakes spin fast enough to glaze up, but you hit that with a spinning disc, cleans it right up. All right, we have some work to do. We need to press out a seal. So let's see if we can tap it out with a screwdriver before we do anything complicated. Screwdriver, awesome. I'm gonna tap it out like that. But then I thought, if I'm going to, do I install it from this side? And when I'm installing a seal anywhere else, I usually would think, yeah, you want to see this side out. But I don't know, it might be easier to press back in from this side, which means, should I be removing it from this side? I don't know. Let's just get a little hammer and a screwdriver, and let's just give it a little tap. Not really caring at all if I'm deforming it, which I did. There's a nice dent there. No big deal. Okay, new seal. I'm stalling because I don't know what to do. What's the best way to seat this seal without damaging it? You know what we should do? Let's clean the surface that it's about to go into. Yeah, it's black. get rid of all the oil on that thing. I have been taught that you don't tap on the seal directly. You use a big socket or something to tap it in. I don't think I have a socket that big. Pretty sure I don't. So do I have? Let's go search. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. What is this? That is a great big heavy piece of mild steel that in theory is cut really well. Get the dust off of it real quick. In fact, okay, let's set up for a second, because this might be what we end up using. Okay. Oh, it's heavy too, which is maybe good for us, maybe bad for us, I don't know. That end is nice and clean cut. It's got some tape on it from the shipping, but that's no biggie. Oh, it's perfect. Okay, so I can tap on this and drive the seal and not have to worry about individual taps hurting the seal, and we can keep, we can make sure that it doesn't bend. Okay, we're gonna do it. So we got one shot at this. Okay. Just thin little layer. All we need is something that seals it against oil leaks. And maybe we'll lubricate it a little bit on its way in. That would be nice. Okay, and if we're going to do this, we may as well try to set it up straight. Okay, that looks good. Yeah, I'm just checking to make sure this is actually straight. Okay, I mean, out of curiosity, what happens if we just kind of do that? No, it's not moving. Okay, this is a small hammer, but let's... I cannot tell if it's going in or not. And I think we want a bigger hammer. So, okay, so it's definitely started going in, and I think over here feels like it's a little bit moving faster. Oh, there we go. Seal. And let's see what we're left with. I think that is perfect. Yeah. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and install the O-ring. Make sure it's clean. No, I'm not going to spray this with acetone. Okay. One side down. I like it. Okay, what a beautiful sight we have got for ourselves. Oh, beautiful. Seals installed, O-rings installed, all nice and clean. Let's go install them. All right, all installed. I think I didn't put enough oil on the tractor itself, on the tube, when I was putting that in. I think it's fine because I lubed the O-ring plenty, so it went in. Gentle tapping, that was the right thing to do. So there she is over there, and over there, all installed, tightened as tight as I can get those two screws that hold the carriers in place. And just like before, a little bit of lash. And according to the manual, a little bit of lash is better than not enough lash. So that's been a solid job. That was time consuming. I bet I went slower than anyone else ever doing this, especially someone trying to get paid doing this kind of thing. But it's a hobby, I like doing it. Still need to fix this valve down here. We'll get there eventually. Fix that later. And then in the mail, I did get these guys. So those are for the pads themselves, for the shoes, I guess. I don't know. On the rear, what do you call those? And then these are the discs. So I'll get to those later, and then we can put the brakes all the way back together. Oh, come on. And that'll be nice. I still have some paint work I want to do, but that's the mechanical thing stopping me from using this tractor. I have the fuel filter, we can put that on, but getting both of those brake pad sides put back on, throw a quick coat of paint on the rear tires, just some gray, some kind of like shiny gray, because I've seen some pictures with shiny gray. And then all I have to do now is find a replacement plastic tube for that guy. And that shouldn't be too hard, right? Anyway, thanks again for watching. I love spending my Saturdays working on this kind of stuff. And yeah, thank you. Please like the video, subscribe if you haven't, comment. I'd love comments. Any advice, maybe even if you've got some advice on how to pound in the rivets on these brake pads and shoes, I would love that. I've been thinking about setting something in the vise and then using a ping, and I don't know. I don't know the best way to do it, so I would love any feedback from you guys. And then, yeah, we'll just keep working on it. So thank you very much again. I appreciate your guys' views and your comments. I really do. So have a good night and be good.
We'll be right back.